Hey everyone, we're live, pal. 2 weeks in a row, Andrew. We have not missed in 2 weeks, which is a record for us these days, but we have a lot of stuff to talk about, including AEW Revolution. Where are you with this pay-per-view? Like 1 out of 10. What is your are you excited? Like, it's not like we don't see wrestling multiple times every week, so I feel like that question is a little bit different these days than when we were growing up, but big pay-per-view coming up here.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think it's going to be great. Sting is not someone I got to see live too much, being a Fed head, as someone called me the other day. Growing
Wow.
up in the Northeast, you didn't really get to see Sting that often. It wasn't until much later I got to. I think it was like '98. I saw Sting for the first time when they came to the Coliseum. I'm not even sure if he was still on that. I barely went to any WCW shows, but the fact that, in the recent years, I've seen him a whole lot with AEW has been really cool. I got to see him at World's End, which was the last time I saw him. I'm into this. I think a lot of people surprisingly are into it more than people thought. The way that Sting's retirement match was hyped was nothing like they did with Flair. Flair was a big event for that show, or even like Ricky Steamboat. They had a story of it. Not on the same level, but I think the Flair one is something to talk about because they did a great job with selling that show. With Sting, it was kind of like on the back burner when they first announced it, and it sold out immediately, which is amazing to see. In the Coliseum.
Yeah,
I'm super excited to see it.
As an aside, when people call WWE the Fed, does that bother you at all? When has WWE been the Fed? Not in 20 years, I don't think.
I mean, they're still the Fed to me. How often do you slip up and call it WWF?
Almost never now. I actually have the reverse problem in that if I'm doing like a history thing on the old, 90s or 80s or 90s, I miscall it WWE instead of WWF.
I still call it Turner, It's still Turner to me. I call Citi Field Shea. I'm not even kidding you. I'm not even kidding you, and I don't even do it with like a slip. It's just I refuse to call it Citi Field. Whenever like my wife's like, "What are you doing tonight? Are you coming home after work?" I'm like, "No, I'm going to Citi. I'm going to Shea." I'll. It just I'm stuck in my ways. WWE will always be the Fed to me. It's always WWF to me. The same as TBS and TNT and whatever Warner is. If it's wrestling related, it's Turner. People internally call it Turner at WBD. It's part of the lingo, I guess.
By the way, I'm getting all of these like little messages about some tweets that you made today. There's one of like some. Is that fire? I don't even know what that is.
I don't want to talk about it.
Oh my gosh. And then there was another one, but I don't see it in your feed anymore.
Don't talk about it.
All right. Just I don't know, man. When I don't know where things are going, they must be secret with you.
I'll text you. I'll text it to you. How about that?
Okay. All right. I'm in. Okay,
right.
so
I just sent it to you. Take a look before we move on. Don't you dare share it.
Oh, there we go. Okay, I get it now.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah.
So as we were talking about the Fed thing, it seems like it's now an insult. It's like if you are an old school WWF fan, then current wrestling fans who watch a bunch of different things, they call it the Fed as if to say that you are sort of out of touch and old school. Do you get that sense as well, or is that just me reading into things?
I don't know. I don't think out of touch. Old school, sure. It's what we grew up on. I don't think out of touch at all.
Okay, good.
People want to call it that. Call it whatever the hell you want. You want to. People call it New York.
Yeah, true. Titan. If someone still calls it Titan, that'd be crazy. So let's talk about some Revolution. Yeah. Now, this thing is built entirely around Sting, like you said. And I find the dynamic to be super interesting. You know what I watched the other day? And I watched it because myself and my buddy John LaRocca are doing a wrestling movie review podcast once a month. We
Yeah.
watched Ready to Rumble, the David Arquette WCW movie from, I think it's the year 2000. And Sting is like the babyface in that. Like he's not the true babyface, but he's like the cameo babyface in that movie. And I looked at that dude and I was like, you know what? This movie's like 24 years ago or whatever. He almost looks the same behind that face paint. He's not
Yeah.
wearing the onesie anymore, but he's, it's like, God, the guy almost looks the same. What face paint and staying in pretty decent shape for somebody who we know at times in his life has been in like absolutely tremendous shape. Like the character still works. And kudos to Sting for being able to go through the late 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, and now the 2020s. And still, like, he's probably not a bigger overall mainstream star than ever, but I don't know. When's the last time a Sting match sold 16,000 tickets? Never,
I don't
right?
know when it ever did. I don't know when it ever did. Yeah. He is fascinating to me because he was growing up for me because they were a couple years older than me. For me, he was like the counter to what WWE was doing. Like to the Ultimate Warrior, he was the counter. To the Hulk Hogan, he was the counter. I have a very different perspective, and I wish I had a different perspective than I do about Sting and his career and access to seeing him wrestle. I think it's actually fascinating, and it tells you something about the reach that he's had in his career, that they were able to sell that show so quickly.
I had some family in town. Well, not my family, but my wife's extended family. And they're from a small town in North Carolina called Gastonia. Actually, for basketball fans, the hometown of big game James Worthy, Gastonia. And I was asking her, I was like, how far is Greensboro from where you live? And she said it was like an hour and a half or so. And I was like, yeah, there was like when this card got announced and when this was Sting's final match, there was like this small wanting for me to go to this show, and I could have stayed somewhere. But at the end of the day, doing something like that in March is kind of crazy. So I didn't even really think twice about it. But like even me, it's like I was kind of like, oh man, I wasn't like Sting wasn't even my guy. Like, Hogan was my guy. Nature Boy was my guy, so Sting was kind of next. But still, like there was just I just think this whole idea of what they've done here is intriguing, especially for old school Fed guys like us, right?
Yeah.
Like that is going back to our childhood when we would have first seen Sting.
Yeah. When was the first time you saw him? Like, what was the first memory or feud you have of Sting?
Starrcade 1987.
Wow.
Which is the infamous Starrcade because WWE sabotaged them on pay-per-view by creating the Survivor Series. And so I'm not into the NWA that much at that point because I'm probably like 11 years old. But I'm big time into WWF. It's, Hogan and Andre are getting into the ring together at the Survivor Series. I want to watch that show. So I have my dad give a tape to one of his friends who's got the black box, and she records it, sends it back to me. I get it like that night, and I have to go to bed, but I just wanted to make sure that the tape worked, and I pop it in, and it's Starrcade 87, and I was like, what the hell is this? This is not the Survivor Series.
What a disappointment.
Right? But at the same time, it was probably the best thing that ever happened for my wrestling fandom because I must have watched that tape 50 times, and so I got to learn about all of those guys. And Sting is in the opening match in a 6-man tag. I think that's the opening match. Sting and Rick Steiner are both in that opening tag. So so that's when I would have seen him, and I'm like, oh, who's this jacked up guy with face paint? So that was my first memory.
I would I'm trying to think back. Mine is way later. Mine is probably like 91-ish. That would probably be my first like memory of Sting.
Mm-hmm.
because WCW, again, it wasn't something I really watched. My grandmother was a big fan of Ric Flair, so she would put it on, but I was too little, you know? My first memories of wrestling are always WWF, but, like, if I was gonna say my first Sting memories, probably no, you know what? 1990. 89, 90, probably more like 90 was my memory of Sting, and I
Well,
thought it was, you know.
that's his first title run.
Yeah, around then. That probably was it.
That's also, and we can kind of segue ever so slightly just to pay our respects to Ole Anderson. And Dave did a 30-minute like just historical bio on Ole this morning. So anybody who wants to know about Ole, it's the Observer and Dave and Brian talking last night, this morning. Fantastic. I couldn't do anywhere close to the justice, but it just reminded me because Ole Anderson was the booker when Sting won the world title, and he was the voice of the Black Scorpion. That's people our age who were, maybe not as big of fans in the 70s and 80s. That's how we would have remembered him. A, part of the Four Horsemen, but then B, the Black Scorpion angle. That's the one that.
Yeah.
That
Well,
makes
I
me
remember
crack
the Black
most.
Scorpion stuff. I remember his feud with Flair, so that would probably been like late 89.
Mhm.
A ton of memories of like Rick Rude and Vader and like that whole run from like 91 to like 93. Really big memories of.
Yes. So, let's talk a little bit about this card. I was looking at this card, and I know the diehard AEW fans are very excited for this show. I think it's a good show. Just match for match, I'm not sure if it's like one of their iconic shows, at least on paper. But other than the Sting retirement match, what's the thing that you're looking most forward to? Because I'm guessing that we are going to differ in what we are looking most forward to after the Sting match.
I would probably say the world title. Danielson. You know what? I'm sorry, Danielson and Kingston. 100%. That's probably second, and then the world title third.
Okay, so we sort of agree. Eddie
Okay, where are
Kingston
you?
and Danielson, that is next on my list. I'm cold on this world title feud, man. I'm really cold on it. And we were talking about this, the rise of Swerve. And he's one of the guys to me that you need to build around. But adding Hangman into this feud and making it a three-way, I think it's ruining it for me. I would rather see a Joe versus Swerve match one-on-one. For one reason, I like world title matches to be one-on-one anyways. But I understand if you're not ready to take the belt off of Samoa Joe, because I actually think he's done a tremendous job as champion. Then maybe you don't want to pin Swerve. Like, that makes sense to me. But I don't know. If we're not ready to pull the trigger on Swerve, I'm not sure that he should have been in this match necessarily. I just think, how can you build up more anticipation for him than what they did at the end of last year? And I think extending it through March has kind of muted him a bit, unfortunately. And it's kind of funny because I hearken back to when we were talking about Cody Rhodes losing to Roman Reigns last year at WrestleMania. And we were like, oh my God, I can't believe they did this. What happens if Cody is, ruined or whatever? What happens if his popularity just goes way down? We're wrong. We were wrong because Cody is hotter than he's ever been. So maybe Swerve can lose this match, but I just don't sense that they're going to do a year-long storyline to get him back.
No,
so
I had a conversation with someone about this, and my first thing was he can't ever eat that pin in that match.
Yeah, he can't.
Swerve cannot be the one that eats that pin.
I don't think so. But then again, if we go back to the Cody thing where he did eat the pin and they just continue to build him up, so there is an avenue for that. I just don't sense that is the story for Swerve here. But I would have either pulled the trigger with him, which is unfortunate for Joe because I think Joe's great, or just do Hangman and Joe, and Swerve somehow gets screwed out of the match, and then he gets it for Double or Nothing. That's how I would have preferred to do it. But
Yeah.
so that's why I'm a little bit down on that. And I guess I would say after that, just match for match sake, I just want to see Ospreay. I don't like the booking against Takeshita, though, because Takeshita is another guy that I see that they're sort of slowly rebuilding. Remember after he came in early on and he was like losing all these matches, and we're like, man, when's Takeshita going to get a win? And then all of a sudden, he's beating everybody. And now you're bringing in Will Ospreay, who to me needs to be one of the top 3 talents that AEW pushes in 2024. I think he's just, if Tony Khan can take this dude and make him one of the top stars in wrestling, that is a bonus for Tony Khan's ability to create stars. It's a lot of it, most of it's going to be Will, but just to put him in those positions, because Will is so unique. And when you get the guy who is considered the best in ring, like, he's at least going to be the best in ring. Now, how do we make him a much bigger star? Which is why I think we both were kind of like intrigued at him going to WWE. But that's like, so you can't beat Will in his first match back. And, really as a member of the company, a talent in the company, but also Takeshita's hot as he's been. And I would hate to see him. So I don't really like the booking in this match of itself. But at the same time, from an in-ring perspective, it should probably be amazing.
Yeah, I think the entire show is going to be nice. They don't really miss on a pay-per-view. It's rare, right? I think I could only think of 2 shows that I've counted that were like bad. One was pre-pandemic, and one was, I think, recently. There was one AEW pay-per-view that wasn't, great, but they're going to be doing 11 to 12 shows a year with probably 12 with Ring of Honor now. But the more shows you add, the more of an opportunity it is to have a miss. But they generally don't miss on these.
Yeah, it should be a pretty, I would say, the last couple of pay-per-views have been on the lesser side from like a show perspective than usual. And this is a good opportunity for them to start off a really hot sort of like spring to summer, because they have so many things that are coming. We have big business that's coming. Ospreay is now in. At some point, Okada is going to be in. I'm sure Tony Khan has things up his sleeve that are coming that fans are going to be really excited about. And they need to do that. They need to create more interest, because we got to get those ticket sales up. Those pay-per-views are going to be really solid. They got a TV deal to ink in. So, I think that if this show is excellent, it'll be a good kickoff to what should be a very interesting year for them.
Yeah, no, I think the second half of this year is going to be very telling of the trajectory of this company. We've seen the moves that they've made. They hired a writer. They're looking to expand the pay-per-view schedule. They have Forbidden Door here in Arthur Ashe, which is a big deal to me. The CMLL partnership. This is all part of the Tony's big plan for this year. And so far, it's been a good year. I mean, I think the wrestling has been solid. I think the TV's been really good. It's just getting back on that positive perspective train for where they're headed. I think a lot of it, optics matter, right? We talk about that all the time. And 2023 was a bad year for them. Between the injuries and Punk and the negativity regarding their shows, the uncertainty where they're landing for their TV show, which I still stand by, they're going to stay on WBD. It's just a lot of conversation about what's going on with it. But we also have to remember, this is still a startup. They're 5 years old. They're not a 60-year-old conglomerate that's worth billions and billions of dollars. So I think it's a very uneven comparison when people are talking about WWE and AEW. You can't look at it as if it's a similar or same product at all. You have to look at everything individually. Yeah, is there fair criticism of that company, of AEW? Sure. Most of it is very fair criticism. We talk about it every week on the show. Dave has been very vocal with you, especially on Observer Radio. I think right now, this year, very important to them. And they're very much aware.
What do you think? And I've probably asked you this question a couple of different times, but I checked back in with Collision this week because when the NFL playoffs and then there was NBA All-Star Weekend, and I was, just 100% in on the Niners, and I'm doing podcasts on that stuff too. I just let Collision lapse for like a month, and then I went back to it on Saturday. And for like I would say for the first hour and 15 minutes, outside of Moxley's promo and maybe Danielson's promo, I was like, show's kind of boring. Like you're asking people on a Saturday evening to sit down and watch this show when nothing is really happening. And then the last 45 minutes of that show, I think were pretty darn good. But man, how do people sit there and just watch wrestling on a Saturday with everything else that's going on in their world, everything else that's on television? I mean, maybe people are kind of pulling back on going out as much or whatever. That could be. But I just watched that show and I was like, how do people just watch that show live on a consistent basis? In some instances, people just love wrestling so much, and that show is not hard to watch. But if you look at Dynamite, and the reason why I watch Dynamite, or at least try to watch it live, is because things happen. Something happens on that show. And on Collision, I was like, man, there's nothing going on. What would be the reason for me to make sure that I watch every evening or every Saturday evening without fail? Like, there's nothing. There wasn't anything. Like, I could have watched that Danielson and Jun Akiyama match. I actually watched it on Monday. So that's how I watched it. Just, I don't know. I just find that show to be, I'm not sure. I don't understand what the strategy is with that show.
Well, originally the strategy was to eliminate Dark and Dark Elevation. Is it Dark Elevation or is it Elevation?
Dark Elevation, I thought.
Dark Elevation. Dark and Dark Elevation. Okay. It was because they were eliminating those shows and they wanted another show for the talent that's not getting on Dynamite to have an avenue, because Rampage was getting more of the Dynamite stuff. So they wanted another product to put content. I mean, originally I was told it was going to be a 1-hour show on Saturdays with the concept of a 6:00 time slot, which would have been awesome. And I was kind of hinting like, listen, if you're trying to get a newer generation of viewership, I came up in the Saturday afternoon generation where that's how I got introduced to WWF. Mm-hmm. It's a nice avenue to pick up a younger demo that's not staying up at 8:00 or 10:00 to watch your product. But that evolved, right? That evolved into the CM Punk show, and it became an A1 branded show. I think that's very difficult to do, especially when one product is struggling a little bit with injuries and everything else that's going on. But CM Punk was enough for them. They shifted into that. I think now they're just reverting a little bit back to what the original concept might have been. Get talent on there, have them do these matches, and just to display, extend storylines or display, whatever someone is able to do. To me, it just seems like it's FTR and House of Black and then a bunch of squash matches now, which I don't hate. I don't hate it at all. Like, I love the fact that I could watch a Jun Akiyama and Bryan Danielson match on a Saturday night. I like that show because it fits my need. I don't go out on Saturday nights. It's amateur hour. I don't go out on Friday nights. You know when I go out? Wednesday and Thursday. Those are my nights out. So for me, wrestling is great on a Saturday night. I get it, though. It's very difficult, and that's why they're under 400,000 people this week. Not a good rating.
Yes.
But that's their core. They'll always have that as their core audience.
Now, some of that is the chamber, obviously, even though,
of course,
I think almost everybody watched that chamber show on some sort of delay. And so then it's how much wrestling do you want to watch after that? And like I said, I got through it I watched some of it on Sunday and the rest of it on Monday. So I did get through it, but that's because I feel like, doing this show, talking to Dave, more often than not, I'd like to be up to speed on it just in case. And like you said, Danielson and Akiyama was really fun. And the whole thing with Eddie and Danielson, and if you're listening to the commentary, that stuff is fun. I guess my worry is just at what do you think is the floor for that show? Because we can always say, during college football season, they're always going to have competition. Now it's, WWE's pay-per-views, and it's UFC's Saturday shows, and it's the NBA, and then it's going to be Major League Baseball. So they're always going to have something competing. They're never going to have a Saturday by themselves. I just worry about what happens when you miss a week, and then you just see those numbers for the normalized week just go down slightly. Like, what is the floor for a show like that? That would be a little bit of a worry for me, but I know there are hardcore fans. I see it in my Discord every week. There are people watching Collision live every week. I know there is a hardcore base of fans there. So maybe it's all ado about nothing for me.
Someone that I'm very close to that is totally in the know with TV. Okay, nothing to do with wrestling, but in the know with TV, told me, if they are able to get over 600,000 viewers consistently for that show, that is a tremendous success. Tremendous. Doesn't have anything to do with what they're putting on TV. The fact that they are a Saturday night wrestling show on cable is just where they... oh, wait a minute. Oh, no.
On?
Oh, nothing. AEW dropped nothing. Sorry, I was a little distracted because there's a lot of hoopla with this new AEW logo.
Yes,
a lot of hoopla, and
all of a sudden,
I posted a teaser.
Time.
I sent it to you. You saw it, but AEW also put it on their website, and it's a variant of the one that I showed you.
Yes, it's similar, but it's not exactly the same.
Yeah, it's not exactly the same. It's the same font, just a different look. I'm sorry, what were you saying? Where were we?
No, you were talking about 600,000 for Collision.
Yeah, so I was told if they're able to get 600,000 viewers consistently, I'm not saying a big, like, you put on a big main event and it pops a number. That is an astronomical success on a Friday night.
Yeah.
They're in the 4s. Sometimes they're in the 5s. NXT was the same thing. I was always told that USA couldn't, like, when they were hitting in the 600s, that was their number. I mean, they're still in the 6s. 650, 700 on, like, a really good week. If it's like a special world, they're putting the title online, maybe a 720. That is a very good number for cable. We have to stop thinking about cable like it's 1998.
Mm-hmm.
Same for WWE. WWE is a monster right now. These numbers that they are doing is unbelievable. Look at that key demo. A 0.7 is crazy.
Yep.
That SmackDown segment had a 1-2 something? Highest rated demo that they've had in over a decade.
Oh, you're talking about for the Rock and Roman segment?
For the Rock, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's and just to think of where we are with wrestling, Fox is like, sorry guys, it's still not good enough for us. You can go back to the USA channel. When you can pull numbers like that. All right, just quickly go over the rest of the card. We have Cassidy against Roddy Strong. We have Timeless Tony against Deonna Purrazzo, so that should be a good... I hope Tony kind of shakes the gimmick a little bit mid-match, and they have a really good wrestling match. Also, Christian against Daniel Garcia, which is interesting because I think we thought maybe we would get the Edge or Adam Copeland rematch, but instead we got Daniel Garcia, so he's going to have an opportunity to shine here. And then the Meat Madness match, Wardlow and Powerhouse Hobbs against Lance Archer, and then FTR versus the Blackpool Combat Club, Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli. And I'm sure probably 14 more matches on the 0 hour for that show.
Yeah.
Not 14, probably
Yeah.
like 3. So yeah, should be a fun night or a fun weekend for wrestling, and hope that everyone enjoys that show for those of you who are getting it. Let's switch some gears because you had some news that you had tweeted out about some shows that AEW is going to be doing in the New York area.
Yes. Forbidden Door at Arthur Ashe sometime late September. I'm listening every month. Sometime in late June.
Okay.
I'm gonna guess this date. Okay. I don't have a solid number. I haven't even asked. And the person I'm gonna see, I won't see for like another week. I'm gonna say the 23rd over the 30th, which is a Sunday in June.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Let me see. June 30, 23rd. Yeah, I would say the 23rd is a better date than the 30th because the 30th, the Mets are playing and it'll be a total mess. The Mets have a 1:00 game, which I would absolutely love to get loaded at a Mets game for an afternoon game and then head on over right across the street to Arthur Ashe Stadium and go see wrestling. But this is a big deal. Arthur Ashe is getting Forbidden Door. It's a big stadium. It's a small stadium, but big as far as the venues that they run. They could fit about 20,000 plus in that building. And it's very possible that they could if that lineup is great. I'm thrilled. I was teasing this that I would be blown away by this when they announce it. And when they do announce it, I'm going to be even happier. But it looks like this is where it's headed. As far as Grand Slam goes, I don't know. It was originally going to be at Louis Armstrong Stadium. And it seems like that is not the case.
But
so I don't know where Grand Slam is entering.
Because they've done Grand Slam at Arthur Ashe the last couple years. So you're thinking, I'm assuming that's part of the reason why you thought it was going to be at Louis Armstrong, because it's in that same vicinity, right? Like those two stadiums are right next to each other.
Yeah, right next to each other. One is 14,000, one is about 20-something thousand.
Got it. All right, so we'll have to wait and see on Grand Slam and where that's going to be at. Man, there's just a crazy ruckus right now about this logo business. So
I know it's blowing up. Well,
everywhere.
Yeah, do you see it? It's everywhere now.
Yes, it is.
I think that's just a variant. It's not the main logo. I think that's just a color variant that they're using.
Is it possible that the one that you showed me is the transparency?
It's very possible. Yeah, it's very possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so let's talk about the Elimination Chamber here. We had, like we mentioned, the WWE PLE was Saturday morning at 2 a.m. for me. And I know some people who actually did watch it live on the West Coast, which is kind of ridiculous to me. But hey, I've watched New Japan shows around that time, so not I guess not as crazy. What was your viewing of this? When did you finally throw it on? At what hour on Saturday did you put it on?
As soon as I got up at like 6:00 in the morning, I had it on.
So you were almost watching it live.
I was almost watching it live. I was a little delayed. Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was okay. It was a show. You know, what was it, like a 2-match show or 3-match show? They got to where they needed to be. Obviously, this was a great showing for Rhea in main eventing. What a fantastic moment for her. Mm-hmm. But it was just to get things along. I feel like the Elimination Chamber matches, there's so much you could do, and they do all of it, and then it just means nothing because they do it every year.
Yeah. There was no super crazy athletic stuff. I guess Tiffany did something pretty athletic, but there was no like. I remember I went to one live. This was in Oakland. It was early in the 2010s, I think, and I think Johnny Nitro was in it. So like he's like scaling the top of the cage like he's Spider-Man. Like there was none of that. It was on one end, the women I thought told a great stories. How are we going to get to Becky winning? And I thought Tiffany got over big time. Liv got over in that match too. And it was great to see Raquel fight through, the illness that she's dealing with and wrestle. And she was on Raw as well. But
Yeah.
the whole vehicle was just to get to Becky, and I thought Bianca was fantastic in that match. So the story was, how do we get Becky to win this match? And everyone's trying to stop her from winning and such. So then on the men's side, I thought the men's match was like, how do we build towards high spots? And like
That's what it was. Yeah.
the camera tricks were cool, and the way that they got to those high spots were cool. But when they were just doing the match, I was really bored during that match. But, again, they had some really good high spots,
But you know
really good
what?
camera tricks.
Think about it this way, right? If Punk was in the match, what would the match have been? Because the story would have been that Punk's winning that, right? And he would face Seth Rollins night 1, and Cody and Roman would get night 2, or whatever it was going to be. Or Rock and Roman would get night 2.
Right.
Now all of that went out the window. And I'm curious how this would have played out if that was the case, because night 1 is still in the air. We don't know what we're getting.
Yes, it is. Very much so. And based on Raw from Monday, Cody is still talking about it like it's him against The Rock. That is who he is still challenging to a one-on-one match. And Seth is kind of his backup. Seth is his bodyguard. I guess we're going to get The Rock on the next 3 SmackDowns. So they'll have an answer to Cody's challenge, I'm sure, for that show, and maybe build towards that tag match that we all think. Let's go back to that Rhea match, though, because I have seen some people say that Rhea match was awesome, almost to the point of like, not quite Hogan Andre levels, of course, because nothing can ever really be that famous, I don't think. But like that was the idea, right? Like this was Rhea toppling Andre in a sense. And I didn't see it like that in any way. And maybe it's because I don't like Nia as a wrestler as much as some others do. I also didn't think the match was that good. I thought Nia was like pretty bad in that match on this big stage in this big moment, and Rhea was over, so it still worked in the end. But what was your takeaway? Did you like that match like a lot of people that I've seen?
I thought it was fine. I thought I liked it a little bit more because it was a great moment for Rhea, and I'm a fan of hers.
Yeah.
So I was enjoying the fact that I was able to see this happen for her, and what a great moment that is for anybody. You are a professional wrestler. You've been doing it since you were a teenager. Now you're headlining in your home country in front of 50,000 people. Tremendous. That's huge. But as far as, a great pro wrestling main event, it was fine. It was okay. It was whatever it was. I didn't, would you say 3 stars? I don't think that's an insult. I think that's great. I think that's a very good score.
Yeah, I would have probably gone a little bit less than that, but I think
Maybe
the pageantry the pageantry probably does pull it up that high, because that is part of it. It is, how does the live crowd react? And the live crowd, they were not going to let that match fail in any way, right? They were going to make sure that she was over, that they were going to be loud for her. They were going to be there for all the moves. I just thought that Nia was bad. Like, you remember in the Royal Rumble, Jade Cargill's supposed to have this moment where she's going to body slam Nia. And I'm not saying Nia did this on purpose, but she sandbagged the body slam. I think they mistimed it. Jade was about to do it, and then Nia kind of hopped a little early, so it wasn't actually clean. And the same thing happened in this match. The first 5 minutes was all about Nia and Rhea being on the wrong page on not stuff that I didn't think was that difficult to do. And so when that kind of thing happens, it frustrates me, because, and when you know the level of wrestler, you kind of give the benefit of the doubt to the person who you think is the better wrestler. So I was giving the benefit of the doubt to Rhea. Rhea's clearly the better wrestler. Rhea's had really, really good matches going all the way back to NXT. And so maybe I'm being a little hard on Nia. I just thought when you pick her for this moment, because look, she's in the main event of this giant 50,000 attendance show as well. So it's opportunity for her to shine. And then you watch it and you're like, oh gosh, I can't believe they're like not getting some of these little small things right. Now you get to the end of it and it's fine and it's there and you get to what you want to get to. But I just was a little bothered by her performance, and hey, maybe it was nerves or whatever, because then I saw her the next night on Raw, and now I have a little bit of different perspective, right? Because I was live at that show last night, and fantastic seats, the third row, on the floor, dead center, so I got to see everything. Nia Jax as a heel is a very entertaining heel from the perspective of facials, her attitude, how she just kind of like looks at her opponent as nothing. All of that stuff is great until she actually has to have the match. Now, she wrestled Liv Morgan, and I would say that Liv Morgan was the lesser of the two in that match. If I was, because I was watching really closely because I knew that I was a little negative towards Nia, and I was like, okay, I want to make sure that I'm just not being biased towards her. And yeah, she's not fantastic, but she does some things very well. I thought Liv was off last night for whatever reason, and that match could have been better if she was a little bit more on, because I think Nia probably, just because she probably heard some of the criticism, she's like, okay, I got to make some of this stuff look a little bit better for Liv. Liv's a lot smaller, and then Liv was kind of fumbling the ball a little bit. So I'm hard on Nia Jax, but I felt after watching closely yesterday, I made sure I don't want to be biased towards anybody. Like we're just talking about it. We're critiquing, and as fans, not that I've actually ever been in the ring and took a bump or anything, but so I just wanted to make sure that I gave her the benefit, and I think I was fair in my review. But I was just interested because I've seen wide ranging scores. Like Brian Alvarez was harder on Nia than I was, and then I've seen other people say, I think Big Vinny V, who we had on in our Q&A last week, he was like, that was a fantastic main event, and I won't take any answer otherwise. And I've had other people go like, it was a near 4-star match. I was like, really? What did I miss? But, it's just wide-ranging stuff.
No, I agree with you. I not the best performance, but I think the Monday definitely was not great. I don't know what happened on Monday, but on Saturday's show, it was what I expected. I didn't expect more. So maybe
very straightforward book show. Yeah.
Maybe for me it was a little bit different.
What did you think of the Cody and Seth and Grayson Waller Austin Theory segment?
I hate those segments. I hate those talking segments. It's not the Piper's Pit. It's not 1990 anymore. Everybody, I hate the Waller effect. I hate the Kevin Owens show. Yeah. I hated the Chris Jericho one. Whoever else is doing them, the Miz TV. I hate all of them. It's done so often where it doesn't even make sense to do it. Just come out there, cut a promo, and be interrupted. It's just bizarre to me that, it's a variety show, and they tend to do that a lot. I didn't like it at all. I understand that, it's set up something for everybody, but not a fan.
So you're saying like on Saturday Night Live, Tina Fey shouldn't just bring out a whiteboard that says the Tina Fey Show, which is the same whiteboard that
that's literally exactly what it is. Yeah.
So the whole segment was to set up whatever The Rock and Roman are going to say, which is why last night I kind of thought, now, I'm sure Dwayne is racking up the miles on that private jet because he's going to all these wrestling shows. But I kind of wish that he was actually at Raw last night, because I think there would have been a much better thread. Because if you have Saturday, so you had 2 Fridays ago, and The Rock slaps he didn't slap Cody. No, the press conference he slaps Cody. So then he's on SmackDown and they do the whole bloodline thing with him and Roman. And then you have the Elimination Chamber where Cody accepts. Now we're kind of waiting for, okay, what does Rock say? So on Monday, Cody has to go back out and say again that he wants The Rock. And so there was no retribution, or there was no answer from The Rock naturally. So now we got to wait another show to get him to answer. So I thought he should have been on Raw. And I'm sure that they would have probably wanted him on Raw if they could give it him on Raw. But instead, we got Paul Heyman coming out to tell some very slow stories because they had like 10 minutes left after Cody easily beat Grayson. And I looked at my watch and I was like, oh man, we got a lot of time here. And Paul Heyman meandered down the ringside. No human being could walk as slowly as Paul Heyman walked down the aisle. And
Boy,
then
was he killing time.
Oh my gosh. He cut his promo. Cody got in the ring, sat down. AJ Kirsch was one of Heyman's henchmen. People would remember AJ Hirsch. I guess, I don't know if people remember this. Do you remember when AJ Kirsch was part of the, what was it, the Yolo County Tag Team Champions?
Yolo County Tag Team titles. I have those titles. They're in my attic. I have a set of the Yolo County tag titles literally in my attic right now. I just moved it out of the studio. I would have gone up there. It was sitting there for years. Nobody brought it up. This is the first time anybody's ever brought it up.
So AJ
That's
Kirsch and a friend of mine and a really, really good friend of John LaRocca's, Dave Dutra, who's also an indie guy out this way. They were the Yolo County Tag Team Champions.
Yeah.
But you know, if you know, if you're from this area, you know AJ. You've seen AJ. That AJ has been in multiple angles like that on WWE TV before. And so it's funny when he came out and I was like, oh, this is awesome. I love it when you get to see the folks who are, you know, wrestling around this area in Independence. It's kind of cool to see them be there. Actually, I don't know if you would have seen this, but I'm trying to think. I think it was during the Nakamura match. There was a little dude, blonde kid, and he was messing with Nakamura or something, and like that kid is the son of the guy who runs APW in this area, who had the super front row. So it's like fun to see that, you know. Then you see the people who are like at the indie shows and such. But by the way, Jey Uso was at a like Cricket wireless store somewhere in San Jose. And I didn't know about this, but it was like around noon Monday. And so I was told by some folks who went to go see if they could get a Jey Uso autograph that people were in line waiting for hours before he even got there. And it kind of became an S show, as I was told. And they just had him eventually sign a bunch of stuff to give out because it was a little bit too chaotic. So that kind of tells you a little bit how hot wrestling is right now, at least WWE in this area, because they sold out completely last night. I haven't been to a WWE show with that many people since the night after WrestleMania 31. That was the last time in this area that there was that many people for a wrestling show that I can remember. Now there may have been a pay-per-view that they've done that I didn't go to, but for me,
how many people were there?
Just under 12,000, which was a sellout.
So
like the upper deck was
full. I would say for WWE, I've been to like the stadium shows, which I'm not going to count that, but for like a SmackDown, I was there at the Garden and they had 13,000 plus in that building. Yeah. You know, I think I don't remember the exact number, but maybe that TV had like 15,000 or whatever it was. It is amazing how much business they're doing with a whole lot of nothing.
And so if I go back, so this is the third Raw that I've been to live in a year. And we went through this whole thing. You go back a year on this show when I was telling you how I had stopped going to Raw shows because I found them to be very boring live. And then my buddy told me, hey, do you want to go? And I was like, okay. And I had a lot of fun. This would have been this time last year. And I was like, oh, they do a much better job of keeping the audience involved during commercial time and, you know, things happening so that you're never really sitting on your hands. And so this is the third Raw in a year. And the first time this year, or this time last year, I want to say there was like maybe 7,000, and then 6 months ago, there was maybe like 9. So it's like incrementally going up by 2,000 in the last 3 shows over the calendar year,
Let me
which
ask you
is
this.
crazy.
I want to ask you this, because this is such a interesting what if, right? If Cody had not gone to WWE and Punk had not had the travesty that he had in his run, where would AEW be today? Cody never leaves. Punk is, kumbaya and happy to be there as far as, TV's concerned. Do you see a shift in the balance at all on the WWE side, or is WWE still on the same trajectory? Or does AEW still, do they still do the same exact thing that they're doing, or are they performing better?
No, I think AEW stays hotter. I think WWE, they do not catch as much fire, but I think, and we kind of circle back to Austin being at WrestleMania again. Like we kind of circle back to that time frame as like, oh, like there's like interest there. Like we haven't seen Steve Austin wrestle in years and years and years. Cody was also on that show, and I think we had all assumed he was going to be there. We'd been talking about it, but Steve Austin drove those eyeballs to the bigger picture so that people could see Cody. So I think that was the Austin thing. They would have had to have somebody else in that Cody role to take advantage of that. I don't know who that would have been, because remember the main event of that weekend was Lesnar and Roman Reigns on night 2. So it's not going to be Roman Reigns. That there would have had to be a babyface to take advantage of the eyeballs that Cody Rhodes got that weekend. Unless they had somebody else, who would it have been? I can't even think, going back, a couple years now. But I think AEW does not fall out as much, and it's probably because of the optics of one of their EVPs leaving. Like I think that even like it's not really the direct effect of Cody leaving as a wrestler. It's the direct effect of AEW was perceived as the cool and hot, and then one of their own guys who started the company left, and that kind of changed that perception of what they were. So that's interesting. What's going to be interesting? Who's going to write that book about all of the things that happened during that time frame? Because that
I think it's so, there's so much that has happened in pro wrestling from post-pandemic, from that like that Mania to actually that January, right, to now, and it's still unfolding. Everything is unfolding.
Dave's story, right? Dave's story that the Steve Austin news from that WrestleMania broke to him when he was on a Valentine's Day dinner.
Dave was out on a date for Valentine's Day, and Steve Austin calls. He's like, Dave, listen, what?
And that's when he got the text for that time. Valentine's Day he'll always remember that as the day that he got the Steve Austin news.
I'll never forget the moment that Dave figured out that I knew that Danielson and Adam Cole were going to be on that show in Chicago. And he grabbed me in a corner and lifted me with his big muscle arms. And he said, fucking tell me now. And he started shaking me violently. Never forget that. I was traumatized. I was like, I'm sorry, Dave. Yeah. He's going to be there. He's going to be there.
Oh, man.
Listen, Steve Austin was a big thing for them. I want to see Steve do more. And I'm one of the few. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm.
Austin's the best at that stuff.
How do you not want to see that? And he did so good with Kevin Owens. I want to see him and Punk. That's the match I want. And then I can never see a CM Punk match. I can never see an Austin match again. If that's the last one, I'm fine.
Well, I think as long as The Rock is there, he knows that he's not needed, right? Like he doesn't want to be overshadowed by The Rock. And you know what's actually interesting? He would not be overshadowed by The Rock right now because The Rock's getting booed. Like Austin would be celebrated right now. So it'd be actually an interesting time for him to come back. But if he was to do another match, and he's not, he's never one to say this can never happen. Like he did that Kevin Owens match, and I'm sure he could do just as safe of a match with CM Punk. He's going to tell that dude, I'm not going up for no GTS though, brother. That's not happening. But
he's like he weighs. He's like a sack of rocks. I don't know if Punk could get him up. I think Punk would have an easier time getting Lesnar up than Steve at this point. He's so dense, Here's a question for you. Do you think? Okay, I'll throw it out there. Can you see Rock and Austin doing anything
together?
Yeah,
whether on a team
or is that ship sailed?
I think it's sailed because I think you got to leave it where it was, right? Because you had 3 WrestleMania matches. WWE's created so much content off of that feud, off of those matches. You leave it where it is, and you don't possibly soil the memory of that feud, and just leave it where it is. I mean, they could do you know what I would actually like to see, and this is where I hope, if they have some time with The Rock, what they should be doing, I hope that they're doing some interviews with him, because you could do fun stuff like Austin and Rock talking about their feud and why it was important, and you could create WrestleMania weekend 24/7 or whatever. What do they call it? 360. Whatever that little documentary thing that they sometimes do on Peacock. Austin versus The Rock, and you have those guys talking about their feud and their matches. I hope they're doing stuff like that, because you don't have the opportunity to have Rock in-house to do a lot of this stuff. So I hope they take advantage of it, because that's the stuff that I would love to see. Like, even, Rock and Roman is great. Rock and Cody is great. I don't need to see another actual Dwayne The Rock Johnson wrestling match. I just like seeing him because he's bigger than life, and he's like he's the celebrity that came from this thing that we watch that a lot of people watch. And so when you see him become the big star, it's kind of like a wink and a nod to us, because we're like, man, we were there before everybody else was with Dwayne. So I like that aspect of it. I don't need to see him wrestle, but I would love to see him talk about the history and talk about Austin and talk about Triple H and do these things. Like, I'm talking about him speaking about it, not the talking head stuff like we see on that WWE Rivals show. Like, I don't need John Bradshaw Layfield to pretend that he even knew what was going on during that time, right? And some of the stuff, some of the stuff he was actually there for. But I'm talking about the other stuff where he's just like making up stuff, and he's just like, very speaking in generalities. And I'm just like, come on, give us some insight. That's what you're there for. But he doesn't have it for everything. So I would love to see those guys do stuff like that, and I hope they're doing it. I hope they're sitting Dwayne down and going, dude, just need you for 2 hours just to talk about this. That would be cool.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to what they're doing, especially with Dwayne. We still don't know about night 1. Is it him and Cody? Are they getting away from the mix, from the tag match? I don't know. I don't want to see that tag match. I don't want to see Cody wrestle twice. Where it's, you got to wrestle Rock first to get to Roman. I don't want to see that. I think you lessen the value.
Okay. What if they said Rock versus Cody, night 1, stipulation is winner gets Roman? What if they did it that way?
And what? Rock wins?
Rock's got to take the L. He's got to take the L to Cody.
I don't think. Listen, I am the odd person out here. I don't want to see Cody and Roman. I don't want to see it. I want to see Rock and Roman. If you have an opportunity to do it now, you better do it now. You don't know what a year brings you.
But what if the agreement is that after this year, after this WrestleMania, all of next year is getting to Rock and Roman, and then we just get it at 41?
Okay, great, fine. If things are still hot, right? If Rock is healthy and Roman is healthy and things are still firing on all cylinders, it's going to be diminished. The value of that match is going to be totally diminished if you wait another year and the product is not as hot. This is the hottest that the product has ever been. I know there's a lot of people that will say, hey, it's not needed because it's so hot. But this is, we've waited so long for this match. I'm saying as a whole, right? As far as
Yeah.
people that are interested in it. I'm one of those few people. Some people really don't want to see this match, and I totally understand why you don't want to see it. For me, I want to see it. I get Cody's story, but you got a chance to do something really big here. Or they think they could do it again. And if that's the case, then if they know better than me, they could do it. But I have lost confidence in this company for over the 30 some odd years that I've been a fan of it. For them to commit to storytelling, captivative storytelling over the long term, that has me interested. When they announced that Rock match a year in advance, I hated it. I didn't want it. There was no element of surprise. I don't want to wait a year for that. I get some people want to. And listen, I could be wrong on this. It could still be the hottest thing next year at WrestleMania. They could announce it and continue to feud and do this whole thing. But once Roman loses that title and a year has gone by and he's not on TV every week, what does that mean now? What does that Rock match mean? You've already shown that you've lost. Are you still at the same level that you were a year prior? I don't know. Listen, I'm speculating here. It could be fantastic. I know Cody has to finish that goddamn story. I know I'm tired of hearing about it. I want to see him become the guy. I want to see him win that title, but what's a bigger story?
Okay. Now, if you look at this from a defensive perspective, you said that Rock versus Roman, by not doing it now, the where the business is this time next year could be different, and thus it won't mean as much. And I completely understand that. But if you take out The Rock and you put Cody in that same formula, isn't that more damaging to current business if Cody versus Roman you hold off for another year and then you're in the same boat that it's not as hot as it is right now? Like, what is the lesser of the two evils there?
Why not at SummerSlam? Why can't you do it at SummerSlam? Roman beats The Rock in that ring. He really is the man. And here comes Cody at SummerSlam or any other show, and he dethrones him. Does Cody winning the title at WrestleMania versus SummerSlam or any of the, let's say SummerSlam, because that's a big
MSG, baby. I want it at MSG.
You know what? His dad never did it at the Garden. What if after all of this he still loses?
People are going.
I kind of want him to now. I know.
People are going to go crazy. They're going
just to see the reaction.
Crazy.
No, I think it's going to be tremendous. I mean, we're having fun here, but I don't like seeing people suffer. I don't like seeing people diminish their value, especially in professional wrestling. It's a very short career in the longevity of things. I want to see Cody do as well as possible, but I have my own opinions on things that I want to see, and that's fun to kind of speculate. Him winning that title at WrestleMania will be such a tremendous story for him and his legacy and his family and what it means to him. I hope it means a lot to the audience. I hope that it creates a growth period, but you are coming off one of the greatest runs of a world champion ever in that company.
I'll end with this. I know we're a couple of minutes over. Sorry, producer John. At the end of the show last night, so he beats Grayson. They do the whole thing with Heyman and the henchmen and everything, and so they cut the cameras off. Cody cuts a promo and thanks San Jose and XYZ, does the whole thing, the whole babyface thing, the whole reason why he's the perfect person for that role. And one of the camera guys, I think it's one of the camera guys, it could have been somebody else, but just kind of sends him a message, and Cody's like, huh, really? Okay, well, bring it over here. So somebody had a envelope with the results of their gender reveal for their child, their soon-to-be-born child, and they had Cody read the results in the ring. And so they did. I know WWE actually put a produced version of that segment on their, I think it's on their Twitter, I think. I shot the whole thing, so I have it on the Fight Game Media Twitter as well. But people eat that stuff up. I had so many people retweet the video that I posted, as in like, Cody is the best human I've ever seen in life. Like, that's the kind of reaction he got to that simple thing. So I just thought that this is why having a top baby face works. It is for moments like that when your top person is a heel and you don't have the over baby faces, you don't get moments like that. So all that to say, if Cody gets finished his story, wins that title, he doesn't even really have to hold that title for very long because he's sort of cemented. He goes into that John Cena role. And if you think about it, we went from Austin, who had a really short stay on top, The Rock, Triple H. Then we got Cena, and Cena was like that connective tissue until they tried to make Roman that guy. And Roman did not work as that guy. But they got that guy now, and that is Cody. And if he has to win that title to cement that, and then again, he doesn't have to keep it. He's having him as the champion, the babyface champion, might actually make him a little bit more stale than without the title. But that's why he's in the spot that he's in. That is how the people react to him. So I saw that right in front of me last night, and it just really cemented my thoughts that you have the opportunity to make this guy who's going to carry the company as the babyface, as the one who's going to be able to go on TV, as the one who's going to be able to get in front of the live crowd, to do the stuff for the fan base. That's why he's there, and he has been perfect, and you just got to finally tell the rest of that story, and then we move on.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm curious how long he holds that title.
I can't imagine it's for that long.
I don't know. Maybe he holds it for like 6 months to a year.
Yeah, that'd be fine. And then you set up the next big, the next heel.
Yeah,
and
whatever it is.
There's going to be baby faces coming after him, and he's going to be like the guy who just the mere fact that he wrestles with this other baby face, the other baby face gets made. Like, that's going to be his role. So, and to think AEW had that dude, right? Going back to our previous conversation.
And he was never allowed to have that title. Remember?
No.
He was barred from becoming the champion there.
Yeah. You got to overrule that one, TK, buddy. All right.
Yeah.
That is it from here. Thanks for hanging out with us for a couple more extra minutes. I think we're going to be back. I'm pretty sure. I don't have anything, though my schedule may change in the near future. We've had some changes at the company with leadership. So I don't know. We'll see. I'll have to keep Andrew in the loop on things. But as far as I know, I will be back next week. So thank you to everybody for watching and listening. For Andrew, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.